Awesome. Just completely summarized the feeling of being a people pleaser. Yeah, I mean, I being an only child, being the child of two parents who divorced, I definitely grew up with this mindset of, be the good girl. And I don't want to say there was pressure from my mom necessarily to do that, but I watched her, struggle so much from the time I was like 4, and I often just kind of felt like if I'm really good, like I won't add to her struggles. I won't add to all of this that's on her plate. And I know too, my dad, tricky relationship there, and it's for the best that it's kind of we kind of parked that relationship a while back, but he and I had a very difficult bond, if you'd call it that, where I would visit him for um, half of the summertime from the time I was 4. I'd get on a plane and I'd fly down to Florida by myself with my little Crayola book bag and a pillow and my teddy bear and all that aside, from the time I was that age, I always felt like I had to be on my guard and at my very best when I was around him and my stepmom. And if I wasn't, there was no like physical violence or anything like that, but there was a lot of emotional, mental, really bad stuff that would go on. And so I just always thought, okay, I'm just going to be as good as I can be. And my mom would even say, when I would come home from visiting him down in Florida, my mom, I remember her saying things like, it would take you a while to kind of become the you that we all knew. And I remember her saying to me, it's almost like you were a robot or like I don't know, you were trying to be like a Stepford child or something, and then eventually we'd slowly see like this kind of crumble away from you, and you'd become much more yourself. Like you weren't as afraid to upset someone or this or that, and so I don't know. I don't want to harp on that too much, but I do think that a lot of those little things, of course, played a big impact in, the person I am, obviously. And just kind of going into adolescence, and early adulthood and everything. I absolutely, and Virginia, you know this because we've done a lot of this work together and talked about my experience, so you're aware of this, but I absolutely brought people pleasing into relationships. So, I guess maybe closer to early adulthood when it comes into to play on that end, I can think of times when I would do things just because I would want someone to stay around, which is a horrible thing to do. Horrible. And I wouldn't do anything that was like, we're not talking anything crazy here, but I would absolutely have this thing in my mind of like, I want to make them happy. What can I do? Like, I don't want to upset them. I'm going to do what they want to do instead of what I want to do because I want them to be a-okay, and I want them to not be upset with me. Because if they're not upset with me, then everything will be fine. And if everything's fine, then my life will be great and it'll all pan out. So that absolutely, is something that I have very much kind of had to grow through. I went through it and I caught the pattern luckily with you